Hey, MCARBO brother, I'm Chris Nelson, President of MCARBO. Really excited to reintroduce the Sig P238, P938 trigger spring kit for your Sig pistols. So this is the new and improved version. We took a lot of you guys' feedback on this, and we decided that since there were mixed results and we were seeing it between the older versions and the newer versions of the Sig pistols, we decided to go ahead and step back into this kit, look at it, and redesign it in a way that would ensure everybody gets a nice, light, smooth trigger pull reduction. So we're really excited about this. This is a brand new Sig, did a little unboxing for you, and it started just above 7. And we got it down to about 3.5, roughly, almost. I'd recommend putting some rounds through it, definitely, to help that Sear spring kind of break in and everything else to wear together, especially a new pistol right out of the box. You're lucky you're gonna get that kind of reduction. I mean, I was really impressed to see that. So really excited to see what kind of results everybody starts getting with this new lighter Sear spring and the stainless steel Sear spring retainer, lighter firing pin spring, and the lighter hammer spring included as well. So 4-spring or 4-part kit, 3 springs, and the stainless steel retainer. Really excited about this. I know you guys are gonna love it. A little more in depth, but definitely worth it. I mean, the starting trigger pull in these pistols, unbelievably heavy, ridiculous. And I was seeing some of the stuff online, guys had higher starting trigger pulls than 7. So it'll be really cool to see what we get for results. You know, we got pretty dang good reduction, about a 50% reduction on this pistol alone. So really excited about it. Love the way it feels now. And when you get in there and start shooting, you're gonna really see all that hard work put into action. I mean, I was shooting this thing too today, and night and day difference. Feels so much better. Let's get on the tabletop, show you we put this baby in. All right, guys, so if you look at the old video and you look at the new video, I thought I was dreaming this up, but you can clearly see in this picture here that there is a Gen 1 and a Gen 2 style Sear spring and housing. So you can see the big plastic housing there in the top center of each side. I've got them divided up. On the left, you've got the old style Gen 1. On the right, the new style Gen 2. And there's a few things to take notice of. So if you look at the Sear engagement surface on both of these, you can see that on the new style, it's got a rib in there. And that rib is actually providing more engagement, making the trigger pull feel heavier. You can see the old style Gen 1, it's a smooth surface. There's no rib there. So that's gonna be a lighter trigger pull. And OEMs do this all the time. They change stuff up. So it's always trying to hit a moving target. I see it all the time. On the new style Sear spring, you're gonna have that big hole, all right? You're gonna have a big hole on the housing as well. So if you're not sure which one you have, I'd recommend taking off the left side grip panel, and you'll be able to look in there and see if you have a big hole or not. Obviously, for the complete new Gen 2 style kit that we're selling, you're gonna have to actually have a hole in your housing. Now, could you buy a new style housing and then use our Sear spring? Absolutely. So we tested that as well, and it works just fine. If you've got the Gen 1 older style, you're not gonna have that hole to use our Sear spring. So we're gonna sell a Gen 1 kit and a Gen 2 kit. So that's a quick little rundown, Gen 1 versus Gen 2 and how they are different. And it's hard to say when these changes occurred, but all the new ones we've got now definitely look like this. Let's just say if you got an older style, you know, if it's been 10 years, you're probably Gen 1, but pull that grip off. Pull that left side grip, just confirm it before buying the kit. All right, let's get into this. Parts needed for this build, the Sig P238, P938 trigger spring kit by MCARBO. This is the new and improved kit, so it's a 4-piece kit. It includes the new lighter custom Sear spring, so laser cut and formed. This thing is fantastic. This really makes up the difference night and day right here. Really excited about it. Stainless steel Sear spring retainer, so that'll hold the Sear spring inside the plastic housing. We'll get in that in a minute. A lighter firing pin spring and a lighter hammer spring. Tools needed for this build: hammer, bench block, 1/8 inch punch, 3/32 inch punch, 1/16 inch punch, small micro tip flathead screwdriver, regular flathead screwdriver, small pliers or needle nose pliers will work. 3/32 inch Allen key. You don't necessarily need a T-handle like I got here. Blue 242 Loctite, synthetic grease at PTFE, and as always, guys, make sure we're an iPro. All right, so we're gonna do this install on a brand new Sig P238, double as your unboxing video. Get your owner's manual, so you can see they reuse the owner's manual for both versions, the P238, P938, so completely compatible this kit is. They work in both. All right, so here's our P238 right here. Sweet, really like these grips, like how they changed it up. All right, so we can go ahead and take this opportunity together. Let's check our firearms, make sure they're clear. We'll check the chamber, bolt face, magazine well. Make sure you drop that mag, make sure it's empty, and we are good to go. Wouldn't that be something if we got a loaded mag with it? Bonus. So you get 2 mags with your Sig P238. Really like how they're doing these really cool custom grips here. It's kind of nice, feels good. All right, let's jump into this. Before we get started, let's go ahead and see what kind of stock factory trigger pull we're working with. We'll do a 5-pull average, so you see the count of pulls down here right next to that N. This will be the running average trigger pull, and this will be each individual pull. It'll just help rule out any sort of human error with it, give us a good baseline. 7 pounds, 0.4 ounces. That's insane. 7 pounds, 3.1 ounces. 6 pounds, 14.6 ounces. 7 pounds, 8.3 ounces. 6 pounds, 13.7 ounces. So you can see 5-pull average, and that average trigger pull weight is 7 pounds, 1.6 ounces. Dang, 7-pound trigger to start. All right, so we'll get started with a quick little field strip. All you gotta do is just pull back on that slide, and you'll see this little half moon, half circle cut out right there. Just wanna line that up with your slide lock. So you'll see, the opposite feature inside. There's a little half circle. They're both lined up, and just push from the opposite side. You can see there's the pin for the slide lock right there. You're just gonna push on that, all right? Or you can use a punch or whatever you need to get it out. All right, so there's your slide lock right there. We'll set that aside. All right, go ahead and remove the slide. Pretty simple so far. All right, let's just put the frame aside for a minute. Let's start with, baby steps here. It'll be nice and easy. Good little small victory here. We're gonna remove that recoil spring and guide rod. Remove that barrel, easy. Now take notice of the way this little back plate sits in there. All right, you'll notice there's no serial number or anything like that on this part, or at least the way we're looking at it right now. You will notice that it kind of has a little bit of a radius here, a bit of a curvature. It's not a sharp edge. So when we put this back on, we wanna make sure it's in this sort of configuration right here. And I mention that because, well, I've been in that situation. Which way does this go back on? So you just push down with your punch and you're gonna slide it right off. It helps to have another punch just sitting there, kind of hold it, because that thing's gonna spring out. That firing pin and firing pin spring are under a lot of tension. All right, so just popped against that punch, lay that piece down, boom. So you can see this is the side that was facing us, and you can see there's the curvature I was talking about. So see how there's a nice little curved radius up here, sharp edge down here. Obviously on the back side, at least I noticed these newer ones, they got a serial number there. So you want that little curved piece, facing you. Just subtle little things that could screw up the whole operation here. We don't want to have a real frustrating Saturday. All right, make it nice and easy. So firing pin spring, firing pin, pretty straightforward. We're just gonna do a direct swap, throw it together, and move on with our day. So let's go ahead and open up that trigger spring kit. Video wouldn't be complete without the old staple puller. I had to borrow one this time. So you can see in the kit, you're gonna get your lighter hammer spring here, lighter firing pin spring over here, and then you're gonna get your Sear spring, lighter Sear spring with the Sear spring retainer, stainless steel retainer. So all we need right now, I'm gonna set this in a little pile over there, is this lighter firing pin spring. All right, so we'll go ahead and just do a quick little swap, just like that. You're gonna drop it right back in the slide. Simple, and then have it upright like this helps. And this is when you're gonna grab your regular tipped flathead. And this is a good time to have some eye pro because you're staring right at a piece of steel that's under spring tension. And you got this little curved portion here that we're gonna slide up towards sights. Remember, we got that little radius feature pointing down. Now once you got it all lined up good, you should be able to drop that firing pin right in, press it down as you're pushing up on that plate, and it'll snap right in place like that. So that's nice. We got that over with. Throw your barrel back in the slide, locks right in like that, and take your recoil spring and guide rod, throw it back in as well. Compress that little guy, drop it in. Always love a good positive snap. Means we're in business. So there we go. So we got our slide back together, already got that firing pin spring replaced. Now let's focus on the frame. We'll start just by removing these grips. So we'll need that 3/32 inch Allen key or the T-handle, whatever you got. Woo! So that's the Loctite breaking loose there. So we can go ahead and put the blue Loctite back on there. That's what they did from the factory. We'll do the same. Just don't want those things backing out. I really like these new grips. Oh, okay, those are Hogue grips. Huh, nice. All right, there we go. So we got our frame stripped down. We got our Hogue grips here, little screws. Make sure we Remember, put some Blue 242 Loctite on those before we put it back together. I like to set this stuff up in little piles, so I'm just gonna stack all this off to the side. Helps me remember when I'm putting it all back together. Pretty straightforward process. I mean, you'll see there's a lot going on here, but all we have to worry about is the trigger bar and our ejector. You can see it moving there. The hammer, obviously, we're gonna drop that. All right, and our safety here, and you'll notice there's a spring and detent exposed at this point right now. And then there's that hammer bushing inside where that spring and detent are captured in. And not a whole lot to see over here on this side. Left-hand side of the frame is the working side that we'll be doing a lot of the work on here. And it's pretty hard to see right now. See that part right there? There's your Sear. And the orientation of the Sear is definitely crucial. And that's something we're gonna wanna pause and take a good look at, you know, once we get a little further down. Notoriously, you're gonna be putting it back together and just wondering which way it goes. Trust me, I know. First-hand experience. I spent a lot of time just trying to come up with the best way to do this. You do not wanna go down this route here. So the first thing we're gonna do is remove the hammer and the hammer spring and everything else from up here. I know it doesn't make any sense right now, but it will in a second. You're gonna push up on that safety, okay, so that we can get that little detent and spring out of there and that hammer bushing as well. So we're just gonna push up. Now, if you push too far, too hard, it'll spring out, and it's hard to find these. You know, we've lost a lot of them too. So just take a little time here, kind of have your thumb up here, and just push up 1, and then 2, and you'll feel it, that detent and spring right under this thumb. And just kind of slowly let it out like that. So we can pull out that little spring and detent. All right, we'll set that in a little pile over here. And now we can pull out our safety. So you have it in this vertical position like that, it'll pull straight out, just like that. And when we go to reinstall it, that'll be the same method. Now, we need to remove that hammer bushing right there. And everything's still under tension because we didn't go this route. All right, take the 1/8 inch punch, push down on that hammer a little bit, and you're gonna push through on that bushing. So keep good tension on that hammer just in case it's gonna wanna fly out of there. But you can leave your punch in there too to capture a lot of that spring tension. All right, so we're gonna push it through, kind of slowly let it out. There's the hammer bushing right there, and you can see how it's hollowed out on the inside for that spring and detent to locate in. So we'll throw it in that same pile over there. And you can see we've got our hammer is captured right now by that 1/8 inch punch. All right, push down on the hammer, and you can move it up and down. So most of that, you know, spring away tension's released at this point. You shouldn't have to worry about it flying off or hitting you. So now we're good. This is the route to go right here. I mean, this is easy. So we're gonna pull out the hammer, just like that, set it in that same pile. And we'll lay all this out and review it in a second. Now your hammer spring is gonna be stuck down in there and nothing to worry about. We're gonna get that out here in a second, but let's focus on the most important part of this whole thing. You hadn't really paid attention much yet. This is the time to do it. And this is the time to really focus as you're pulling this apart, the orientation on that Sear. You don't have to worry about the ejector too much. It's pretty straightforward. You know, this piece is gonna be up top pointing towards where the barrel would be, the tip of the barrel. So this is the Sear hinge pin right here, which also holds the ejector. All right, so I just turned up the brightness. All right, so there you can see the Sear and the ejector really good. And you can see left side of the frame, ejector right there. All right, and you can see that orientation, the way it kind of kicks to the center, just like that. All right, and you can see the Sear down there. So from this vantage point, all we've got is that flat, smooth face right there. And then you see it kind of 45s back. Now when we look at that engagement feature, so you can kind of see what I'm talking about, that little double step right there. All right, so this is the most unique feature on that Sear, and that's what we want to find when we get it out. That gives you a couple clues there. You know, the way it's sitting in there, this might give you the best vantage point. When we pull on that trigger, you can see how it's actuating that Sear and the ejector right there. All right, so that's the orientation, and this is a really good shot right here. That trigger bar right there, how it's resting against the Sear right there, that's a good little clue too when we're putting it back together. And then you can see the way the ejector is positioned as well. That's pretty easy. You know, it's just on the left-hand side, right up against it. But the Sear, you'll see in a minute. It can kind of throw you a couple different ways if you're not careful. All right, beat that horse to death. All right, so go ahead and set it up on the bench block. Take your little 1/16 inch punch, and we're gonna push through in that pin right there. and go ahead and just capture it all. Your pin drops right through. Shiny silver one, put it in the pile. And now we can start to pull everything apart, and we'll try to take a good look at it as we're doing so. But the Sear, it's just gonna fall out. I wish I could give you a better, yeah, it's all gonna be a mess. I mean, it is what it is. Now it is captured on that trigger bar right now. And same with that Sear spring. So there's the ejector. That's how it's gonna go back in, put it in the pile. And now the Sear, this is a good little example because we're getting ready to put all this back together. You can see how it's captured between the trigger bar and the actual Sear spring in there. That's what we're gonna have to replicate. So we're gonna do that exactly as we put it back together. So kind of just push up on it and there it goes. Well, and our hammer spring came out as well, and that's perfectly fine. We'll throw it back in with the replacement here in a minute. Look at the way the Sear spring is situated in there right now. So this will throw you for a loop too. This little feature on the Sear spring, it's kind of that curved portion that's pointing forward. It's going to be positioned like that, so it's pointing towards the tip of the barrel, that curved portion. And that bigger feature is on our working side here, the left-hand side of the frame. So when we put our Sear spring back in, the replacement, that's how it's going in, just like that. And that's a good shot right there. You can see how it's all positioned and it's pointing that direction. So just a good little tip there to remember. So our hammer spring, pretty straightforward. Now we're gonna need that little detent here in a second, but we're gonna throw all that in the pile. All right, now here is your Sear. So this is where the trigger bar is gonna hit right against that face, okay? And then you'll see there's that double step we were looking at. So that's where the hammer is actually gonna engage on the Sear. So when we position it inside the frame, this feature is pointing up, this feature is pointing down. Trigger bar hits right against that bottom feature, hammer is going to be engaging right here up top where that little double step was. So I hope that makes sense. Little double step pointing towards the top. It's, you know, pointing backwards towards the back of the frame. And then this little flat right here, it's all smooth. It'd be pointing forward towards the tip of the muzzle there. And that'll be the orientation we drop it in right there. All right, last thing on the disassembly is just removing this hammer seat housing right here, this plastic piece back here that holds the actual Sear spring in place. All right, and we reviewed the orientation of the Sear spring. You can see it again right there. So we're actually gonna have to push it off of the trigger bar because right now that curved piece is captured on the trigger bar. So I like to take the little micro tip and just kind of push it back away from that trigger bar. And we're gonna actually end up pulling down on this plastic hammer seat right here. There's really no fancy way of doing it. Just push back like this so that it's not hooking on the trigger bar. And then just pull down. You could also use your 3/32 inch punch, kind of get you started. And then you end up creating a little space back there. You know, you could also use your other flathead, since you got a little space back there to kind of push down on it. This one's brand new, so it's pretty dang stiff. But you can hear that snap and pop. All right, good. So we got the Sear spring most of the way out, so we pulled down a little far. Right now it's impacting on that frame. So what we have to do is push up on this housing right here so that spring can pop forward and then we can remove it from the channel. But it's a good view of how that replacement lighter Sear spring is going to be oriented when we put it back in. So you can see how that little lip is pointing forward towards the tip of the barrel there. So push back up a little bit. If you ended up in the position I'm at, you just want to make sure that it's obviously off of that trigger bar. It was behind the trigger bar previously, so now it's forward. So now we can slide it all right out. And you can use a punch too to help you, give you a little more leverage. You know, if it's brand new and you need to get some more leverage on that plastic piece, it'll be pretty snug. So now we'll just pull it all out and you'll see that wider portion, it'll pop right through right there. That little pocket in the frame, they got a nice little circular cutout right there. So we'll follow that same pattern when we put our replacement in. So it pops right out, just like that. So there we go. So the frame is good to go at this point, disassembled as far as we need to take it. Just a quick note, you can see how the factory spring, the way it locates in there, basically just pops into that plastic hole. So you'll rotate it and it'll pop right out. There's just a little lip right there that drops in the plastic. Looking forward to this replacement, hearing what you guys think about that new Sear spring. I mean, it's gonna be super light compared to where we were before with this kit. Not too light that it's dangerous, but light that you're gonna be pleased with it. All right, good. So let's go ahead and lay all the parts out and review them. All right, so you can see all the parts we removed from the frame. All right, these are them here. Let's go through them real quick. So we got our Sear spring that we removed, and then we got our hammer seat here, this plastic housing, and the hammer seat pin here with that cut in the middle. All right, and the reason that cut's there on that pin is so this hammer spring with that little detent there, it's gonna locate right on that pin, locking it and keeping it in place. Our hammer strut, the Sear, and we reviewed how to put that back in, and we'll do it here in a sec. The ejector here, and then this is a Sear ejector hinge pin right here. So both of these parts will be located on this pin. And then we got our safety here, our hammer bushing with the safety spring and detent, all captured inside of that hammer bushing. All right, so while we're talking about it, let's go ahead and start replacing some things. So we've got the rest of the kit here, the lighter hammer spring and the Sear spring. Let's do a quick one-to-one swap here. So we'll grab out that little detent on the factory spring. You can use your little micro tip because it's going to be snug. All right, now, you know, the ODID on the lighter spring is going to be wider. Yeah, it helps make it lighter. So we're going to use that synthetic grease with PTFE just to hold it in place during the assembly. You know, once it's all captured inside, it'll be just fine. It's not going to go anywhere. But just to keep things simple, all right, make this a quick process on a Saturday. So we got our lighter hammer spring set up with the detent in place. Set that down. Now we'll go ahead and we'll grab our new laser cut and formed Sear spring with the stainless steel Sear spring plug retainer. It's going to keep it all in place. Now, something to pay attention to here on this retainer. You can see there's that little channel cut there. So that little channel cut is in there so that it will contour that hammer spring, just like that. So if you had this plug in wrong, that hammer spring ain't gonna fit. But we're gonna do this reassembly in a way that, you know, you just can't go wrong. Now this is cool. You can see a major difference between the lighter Sear spring and the factory Sear spring. So you're gonna get a lot of bang for your buck here with this lighter Sear spring. So factory one, don't need that. All right, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna drop in the lighter Sear spring. Remember, we have that little flat pointed feature facing forward towards the tip of the barrel. So this is the back part of the frame here, right? Back portion of the grip. So it's going in like that. Now we're gonna drop in our hammer spring right now with that little detent facing down. Remember that little nipple? It's gonna lock into the pin. So we're gonna drop in that hammer spring because it's gonna help us, you know, as a guide to make sure we get this plug retainer in place correctly. Because you don't wanna get to the end and realize, oh crap, I gotta go back and do that all over again. I mean, who would ever do that? All right, yours truly. We're gonna make sure it's lined up good. It is gonna be a little snug, all right? So just, you know, push through it. Unless it's obviously not lined up correctly, then you won't be able to push through it. Now, if you pull out your spring, your little detent is gonna be missing. So hence the grease, it'll help get it in the right spot, but it's not gonna be something you wanna play around with. So hammer spring, detent, drop it in, and we'll leave it alone. But it is nice to have that hammer spring in place as a guide to make sure you don't, you know, mess up that alignment. You know, I was pretty close there, but I'm good to go. I mean, it's still got freedom of movement and everything else, but if I didn't do that, I might get to the end and be sorely disappointed. So we're all set up. We're gonna leave it in that little package configuration. And now we can go ahead and start putting everything back together in the frame. And there's a nice little methodical process I put together here to help make it easy. Let's do it. All right, so for the reassembly, we're gonna take the main spring housing or the hammer spring housing, this plastic piece with the hammer spring installed and with the Sear spring and the Sear spring retainer all together. We've got that little dimple down inside on that hammer spring as well, so it'll locate and lock in place with that pin, that hammer spring housing pin when it goes through. All right, so we just take this assembly, we're gonna go ahead and insert it, and you can see how I just ran that Sear spring right there through that hole. Remember, there was that big kind of circular hole right there. That's how we took it out. It's a good little way to bypass the rest of the frame there without damaging that spring. So we'll get it up in place. Just keep pushing along. Now this is where it gets a little finesse here. You don't want to push it up too much because we need access to be able to push this piece of the Sear spring back behind the trigger bar. So you can see where I'm sitting right now, I'd be a little too high. So I'm going to pull down just a hair. You could use your micro tip to kind of pry down on that housing a little bit. Mine's still pretty snug, brand spanking new. So you just want to get it just right. So you can see that we're in a good spot now. All right, we can push it straight back. And once it's past the frame and it's behind the trigger bar, you know, we can push straight up on that plastic housing and get it up in there. All right, and make sure your hammer spring stays down in place. So this is what we should be looking at now. So the Sear spring is behind the trigger bar here. Same view up here. You know, our hammer spring is down in place. Our Sear spring, you can see how it's captured there on the trigger bar. That little feature pointing forward towards the tip of the barrel. All right, good. So now that the housing is in place, what we got to do is take the housing pin to locate it into the frame there, because when we start pushing down, we don't want this thing flying out. So we'll make sure it's fully seated all the way up. Hear that good solid little snap. All right, take our little pin. It's got that dimple, that divot, all right, and it's got like a smooth side with the divots facing you on our working side here, and it drops right in. And it will drop in pretty easily. It'll go right through because it's not under any sort of tension right yet. So once we actually get everything in place, that dimple is going to locate on the center of that pin and keep it locked and located right there, you know, center of the frame. All right, now moving on, we can go ahead and install the Sear, the ejector, and that Sear ejector hinge pin right there. All right, so the Sear is going to be in this configuration right here. So you can see the way it's kind of this little S curve. We definitely went over this quite a bit, but just to be sure, you know, this is the engagement area that's going to be engaging with the hammer. So it's going to be locating together like this. So we're going to drop it right in like this. We're going to be holding with our pliers on that engagement area. So I'd recommend putting a little bit of masking tape on your pliers, whether you just got some small little pliers like this or needle nose. You don't want to add any burrs on that engagement area. So we'll put a little on there. You don't need to go so much that it, you know, impedes your ability to get inside the housing. And could you do it without masking tape? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you're careful enough. It doesn't hurt to be on the side of caution there. I just don't want any of that crap sticking off and getting in my way. So just try to make it, you know, a good tight fit. Just don't glob it up. All right, good. So we're going to take the Sear, and this is the engagement side. That's what's going to be interacting with the hammer. And this is the flat, smooth side right here. And we're dropping it in like this. All you need to really see is this side view. You know, I'm going straight down in that channel there. But you can see this side view and you can tell quite a bit. So you can see how I'm pushing back on that Sear spring first, capturing both legs of that Sear spring, and then it's sandwiched between that trigger bar and the Sear spring right there. So you can kind of hold it in place just like that. And it more or less will, you know, stay right where it needs to be. Now obviously we need to get that pin in there, but it's a good start. And then what I like to do is take my 1/16 inch punch and go in from the back side there. You know, you can do this 100,000 different ways, but this is just what I've practiced a little bit. All right, so you can see the Sear positioned, almost ready to go. Just take my pliers and I'm going to pull it back a little bit, and then I'm going to push down on that punch. And it kind of takes a little finesse, kind of working the frame up and down on that little punch as you're moving back on that Sear. But once it's captured, it's a big assist at this point. You know, that little 1/16 inch punch gives you a lot of wiggle room to kind of maneuver it in that hole. So we're sitting pretty good right now. I mean, that technically was the hardest part. So this really isn't a very difficult install. It can be difficult if you go about it in a different way. All right, so what we're trying to do now is move that Sear over so you can see it's flush up against our working side right now. So we're going to pull back on that Sear spring, and you can see it basically just dropped right down. All right, then we let off that Sear spring. It's pushing up against the Sear again. The nice thing is we've got adequate clearance to drop in that ejector now. All right, so now we're going to take our ejector, we're going to drop it right in, and it's going to go on like this. That little leg's going to be behind the trigger bar, just like that. So we'll pull out on that little punch, give us some clearance in there. So you're coming in at a 45, like this, and then that little leg kicks back behind the trigger bar. You can see that, and then you just rock it back to line up those holes, and then you can run your punch right through. There you go. That's it right there. We're in a really good spot. Now we just take our pin. All right, so now we're gonna take our Sear hinge pin, it's a silver one. All right, so we're gonna push against that punch. and just enough to kind of get it started where it's almost just the tip into the frame there. Flip it over on your bench block, push straight down, and then kind of steer all the linkage there. So this one is a little bit of a feel. You know, you're going to be looking at it from the side here, and you're going to try to get everything to line up just right as you're pushing down once again. All right, making some progress. There we go. So it is under a little bit of tension there, you know, but it will line up, and that's a great little technique there. Just kind of using the smaller punch as a guide, and then just, you know, using your table, gravity to kind of push it right through. So we are good at this point, and you can see, you know, we've got that engagement area facing the back of the pistol, which is good, and our ejector facing forward. All right, so you'll also notice I lost that mainspring housing pin. You know, just pop it back in. It's not under any sort of tension yet, so that could happen. So at this point, before we move on, just make sure, you know, the trigger bar is in front of that Sear linkage on the bottom. It's in front of your ejector as well, and that Sear spring is compressing it all together. So that Sear and the ejector are all sandwiched in between the trigger bar and the Sear spring, and that's it. All right, so now we'll go ahead and we'll drop in our safety. You know, there's two little tabs on the side there. You can see it here and here, but basically if you just make sure you've got it vertical like this, they're going to drop right in. You're going to have the proper alignment, but you'll see those tabs right there. All right, it's right there at the 12 o'clock. Now we're going to take our hammer and hammer strut, and we're going to drop it right in. We're going to start to set the tension on this now. So we're going to drop it straight down, and you'll feel it start to compress. Then we're going to take our hammer bushing here, and you're going to want to pull that ejector forward a little bit, because you can see that little bit of silver right there. So as you're kind of holding down on that hammer, I'm going to pull that ejector forward. So I'm going to take my other finger and just push down, holding down on the hammer, you know, simultaneously, and then just drop in that bushing. We'll be under a little tension. Make sure it's centered up. All right, good. So everything's pretty much in place now. Now we'll just take that safety spring and detent. Should all be one piece together. Hopefully nobody lost it. It's an easy one to lose. And then we just drop it right inside the bushing there. So now we can just take our flathead screwdriver, compress it. Now be careful, this is a time when you could lose it. So once it's compressed, just leave that baby stuck right there, and then just push with the actual safety to push that screwdriver off the frame. And this is where you could easily lose it if you're not careful. Speaking from experience. So there we go. So leave it alone, don't play with the safety at this point. Let's put the grips back on, and then once everything's captured and retained in place, then we can play with it. Right now, leave it alone. So we got our grips, throw a little blue 242 Loctite on those screws, and then we are almost home free. And you can clean off the old Loctite that's on there. You know, that might help put the threads, you know, getting them started, make it a little easier. It's all preference. All right, just good and snug. The same over here. All right, good. We are nearly home free. I mean, this is real nice. So you can drop that safety, lock that hammer. You can play with it a little bit, but if you pushed all the way over there, you're gonna pop that spring, so be careful. You know, don't overextend it. Once that slides on, we're good. So lock your hammer back. Let's go ahead and put our slide back on. Just push down on that ejector there, and then we can go ahead and line it all up. So we're gonna line up that lug on the barrel there. So looking straight down that hole, you can see when I move that slide, there's that lug moving in and out of place. So you just pull back just a hair. It's lined up perfectly. Drop in the pin, and now we'll pull back further, line up that little half moon on the slide and that little half moon on the actual slide stop, and we're good to go. All right, look at that. Beautiful. So we'll check the safety. Works, good. Check that. Whew, trigger pull. That feels really nice. Trigger pull. Whew. Keep it held down. Rack it. Listen for a reset. Beautiful. Oh, man. All right. There better be no complaints now. This does not get any better. And if you've got one of these, you need to do this. I mean, it's a totally different pistol. All right, let's see what we get for a final trigger pull reading now. That is nice. All right, now let's go ahead and see what we get for a modified trigger pull reading. Same deal, number of pulls right there, running average down here, and each individual pull up here. 3 pounds, 3.7 ounces. Nice. 3 pounds, 14.7 ounces. 3 pounds, 7.7 ounces. 3 pounds, 8.1 ounces. 3 pounds, 11.6 ounces. So it gives us a running average, 5 pulls, 3 pounds, 9.1 ounces. So 3 pounds, 3/4 ounces, so 3.75 pound trigger pull. That's fantastic. I mean, from low 7s to mid 3s, you really can't ask for much more than that on a brand new firearm. Now, I will say too, everybody gets mixed results. It's good to do an average trigger pull reading on something brand new, hasn't been shot. I'd recommend putting some rounds through it. I mean, it's gonna smooth everything out, allows all the parts to wear together, especially if you're dropping new springs into a used gun, same principle applies. But I am really excited to see what everybody gets for results with this new and improved kit. Well, there you go, guys. I know that was a lot, really lengthy video, but we did a complete teardown pretty much on this Sig P238. This kit will work for the Sig P238 and the P938. Really excited to see what kind of results everybody gets. I mean, this is pretty impressive for a brand new pistol right out of the box. The older models of these Sig P238s were definitely, the starting trigger pulls were never this high. And I'm eager to see what everybody's getting for a starting and ending trigger pull weight, especially on these newer ones. So it'll be interesting to compare these results. You guys post your results in the comments. I love seeing that. Like, subscribe. We always appreciate that. Share this stuff around. Really appreciate you guys and all your support. Glad you guys contacted us with kind of the mixed results scenario, because it gave us an opportunity to dig harder into this. And the Sear spring was not easy, not by any means. So took a lot of time and effort, and really hoping and looking forward to a lot of good, solid, positive results here. I mean, I'm impressed with starting at a little over 7 and getting it down to just barely over 3.5. And I know after putting some rounds through it too, it'll get a little bit lighter. It's gonna feel smooth, light, crisp, clean. Love the way this trigger pull feels. Like I said, this used to be my carry pistol, and this may be my carry pistol again here now. I mean, I am impressed with this trigger pull. Really like it. Smooth, clean, crisp break. I mean, this is exactly what everybody would imagine this little pistol to shoot like. It's just so unfortunate, that heavy spring in there, and that Sear spring especially was definitely the cause of a lot of these stiffer, heavier trigger pulls, especially on the newer models. So I think this is gonna even it out across the board for everybody. Really excited about it. Thank you, MCARBO Brotherhood, for all your ideas and your support. And as always, happy shooting.